What's up, party people? The family courts are corrupt as shit. I'm sitting outside. It's early in the morning, and hopefully, trying to be respectful of the neighbors, keep my voice down, and I won't totally lose my shit while I read these orders, if you can call them that, uh, from the judge at Hampshire Division Family Probate and Family Court. What a joke! They should remove family from that title completely and entirely. Absolute joke. Complete disgrace, unconstitutional. I reached out to the SJC. I asked for immediate intervention. I have not heard a phone call back, but based on my appeals, uh, appeal to the appellate court, appeals court in Boston, uh, and what a joke that process was. My interlocutory appeal that was shot down immediately. And based on the bias that we've seen to date in this court, I have no confidence that I'll have a fair trial. Absolutely none. It could be impossible for any reasonable person to think that they would have a fair shot in trial. Anyway, let's read through the orders. I'll try not to lose my shit. And I'm going to point out the inconsistencies, the lies, the narrative, right? Because the first lawyer withdrew, right? She excused herself from the case entirely due to a breakdown in the relationship. Gee, I wonder why. And everyone's made false statements about me. The psychiatrist, the mother, now the court, right? The lawyers make false statements, right? A lawyer lying. Who would have thought? But to abuse the system, to take children away from parents and families, just to soul suck and crush the future, right? Because you want to control things and you're evil pieces of shit. And apparently, child trafficking through the courts, like that's not apparent and on its face based on the number of judges who are being convicted of child trafficking at this point. Um, yeah, this kind of all lends to your bullshit. So let's, Judge Diana Velez Harris, you're a fucking joke. You're a disgrace. Orders on plaintiff's motion to modify temporary orders. On June 1st, 2026, Thomas Kimball father filed a motion to modify temporary orders. Gee, I wonder why that was. Haven't seen my son outside of 2 hours this year, and when I was seeing him, it wasn't inappropriate, and we had a bunch of red flags leading up to that point. But all those red flags from the mother lead to the father having supervised visits, which don't even exist. On June 3rd, 2026, he filed the supplement motion to modify temporary orders. On June 24th, 2026, the court provided that the motion would be considered pursuant to Massachusetts Rule Domestic Relations Procedure 78, and it directed each party to file brief written statements of reasons in support and in opposition to the motion. Father filed his written statement, 234, on June 26th, and mother filed her statement 237 on June 29th. Now I have to go. I don't know that I saw her statement. I'm not sure if that's public. I'm not sure if either of our statements are public, but I have to go and look. Um, if you are in the courts, you may or may not know, or it might not be the case at your court, but where I go, I can't access the court record on the day of a hearing, right? Because it's being held in the back room or reviewed at probate, and then the judge has it, or whoever's holding it. I can't see it, so I have to make a special trip out there to go see my record, or I think unless there's something else I can do to get what's not posted online, because everything's not public. Um, Okay, so we filed written statements either support or against my motion to modify temporary order. Essentially, I'm looking for a schedule with my son. That's the primary thing I'm looking for, right? Just want to raise my kid. Basic constitutional shit. After careful consideration of the parties' written submissions and being otherwise fully advised, the court determines and rules as follows. Otherwise fully advised by who? Who's advising the court? The court previously ordered father's parenting time to be supervised as a direct result of father's own conduct. Let's pause there. December 24th, I had a brief visitation in 2025. My son showed up. He looked like he was knocked out, essentially. His head was hunched over in the car, and I could have been just napping, but when he came to, he was in complete distress. He couldn't even cry. The sound that he was making sounded like Zach Galifianakis when he's like in The Hangover, when he's looking between Phil and Stu. You know, that weird noise. Like it didn't sound. It sounded awful. And essentially, what he told me was like three words. He said, "Mama, Roy, and Pee Pee" were the three words that he ended up coming out with, just trying to figure out what's going on and what's wrong. And based on what I saw previously that year, and my son's concerning behavior, which is clearly a learned behavior, it seemed like he's being abused. So I kept my son when I wasn't supposed to, according to the court-ordered visitation. Now, in Massachusetts and Connecticut, parents have a legal obligation to act if there's suspected abuse. So I suspected abuse based on my son's level of distress, right? So I acted. If I didn't act, I can face criminal charges. And now the judge is using that against me, saying that as a direct result of father's own conduct while he was exercising unsupervised parenting time. Yeah, I was acting to protect my son, and he was just fine while we were together. In fact, the police came twice just to check on that fact. Um, the supervision requirement was imposed to protect the child's best interests while preserving father's opportunity to maintain relationship with the child under appropriate safeguards. Unfortunately, rather than demonstrating conduct warranting an expansion of time with the party's child, father has continued to engage in behavior that has impaired his ability to exercise even supervised parenting time. Well, I was very adamant that supervised visitation is not okay. I gave very good reason why that was based on my own personal experience growing up, and it isn't inappropriate. I've done nothing wrong, and I'm being treated like a criminal. That's not fair. I'm not cool with that, you know? And you have it in the notes there from the YWCA that mine and my son's visit went really well, you know? It was only after he had left that there was a problem because the uh, supervisor, right, wanted to detain me for 15 minutes. He wouldn't let me load my car because he, said that I might do something to the mother or follow her or something. Whatever he was accusing me of. I was being treated like a criminal. So I wasn't cool with that. I have an hour drive back and I can't even load my car to get ready to go. Like, fuck off, buddy. You know what I mean? So, the judge is saying that it's all my fault because I have an attitude with people. It's got nothing to do with me and my relationship with my son. You're inserting people into our lives. I don't need that shit. I don't need your shit. I don't need any of your shit. I need you guys to stand down and stay the fuck back. That's what I need. Father has been disallowed from participating at two separate supervised visitation centers because of his own actions. That's interesting. Tell me about the second one, Judge, right? Share Resources, Jennifer Sweatland, I think, reached out to her to do the intake. She followed up with an email website to her place of business, and then I asked for her business license, and she refused to initiate the supervised visitation. But that's my own actions. That's my fault, right? There are limited supervised parenting resources available within Western Massachusetts, thank God. Father's conduct has foreclosed two. Yeah, again, should just keep accusing without stating anything. Father's conduct has foreclosed two of the opportunities otherwise available to facilitate contact with the child. Again, they're putting it square on me, and the supervised visits are inappropriate, and I keep saying that. The court previously cautioned father that it is his responsibility to conduct himself in accordance with the policies, procedures, and reasonable requirements of any supervised parenting program. You know, I think the cancellation at YWCA was 100% mutual. I didn't want to do it to begin with, but also, I didn't break any requirements. I followed their guidelines at the YWCA. So what policies, procedures, and requirements am I breaking? Did I break at the YWCA? You know, if the father was it if father believes that by continuing to thwart, obstruct, or render himself ineligible for supervised visitation services, he will by necessity be returned to unsupervised parenting time. He is mistaken. So the judge is saying you have to do supervised visits, and anything else you think is just going to lead to not seeing your kid, essentially. So There are two other supervised visitation centers in Hampton and Hampshire County that may be available to parties to facilitate father's parenting time, 18 Degrees in the Toby Center. The court understands that the former has a waiting list and is not currently accepting new families, but is anticipated that they will reopen their wait list sometime in late August or early September. Other centers or supervised parenting time services may also be available near mother's residence, either in Massachusetts or Connecticut. Father's parenting time will continue to be supervised, but the location of the supervised center will be decided upon by the parties in accordance with the procedures below. That's interesting because previously the judge had ordered both parties to list 3 names of people to supervise the visits, and we could have listed whoever we wanted. And the mother didn't list anyone, and it was in the judge's orders, and I brought that to her attention. Judge didn't care, right? Gave her an out, essentially saying if the parties can't agree, it'll be supervised by, third party. So the mother doesn't have to follow orders, right? But I do, and it's all my doing. It's all my fault that this happened. That's the narrative that they're going with, while lying about me every step of the way on paper without showing any type of documentation, reasoning, law-based fact, anything to signify that what they're saying is accurate, because it's not. So that's what I'm going to file next, is a motion to compel. Show me this on paper. Show me how it's my fault that Cher didn't initiate visitation. Father's parenting time, we read that. Accordingly, it is hereby ordered, right here are the orders, on or before August 14th, 2026, father shall propose in writing at least 2 alternative visitation centers to mother through her counsel, which may include the 2 that she listed that are a 25-minute, right, within a 25-minute drive of mother's residence. The proposal shall include the name and contact information. And then it says mother shall select the new visitation center from among the ones proposed on or before August 21st. Mother shall notify father and court of her decision by filing and serving notice that includes the visitation centers recommended by father and the name and contact information of the visitation center she selected. Upon the filing of the mother's notice, the court shall enter a further order designating the new visitation center and the parameters of father supervised. So there's no end in sight, right? Like even if the supervised visitation gets established, like there's no pathway out of that, right? And yeah, it's just it's not due process, right? And for the court to say we're not going to provide any findings of fact until after judgment at trial or at trial, how is a litigant supposed to defend themselves? I mean, just try to process that one. So it's not due process. Showing facts after the fact isn't proper. You can't do that. I don't know. So my next filing is going to be a motion to compel, in fact, in law, what they're saying here and how this is appropriate. The family courts are a problem in the trafficking children. My son and I have a beautiful relationship, and that's precisely the reason that we're being kept apart. If you've watched one video, you might have seen a red flag or two. Ivory Tower, the mother had this fantasy of having a child, right? When she was a kid, she had a fantasy of having a child and living in an ivory tower with said child. She started off by denying a DNA test for 5 months. I've seen my son for 2 hours in 2026, but it's all my fault, right? He'll be 4 in October, and this is wildly inappropriate. This is psychological torture and abuse of my son. It's not okay what they're doing to kids. And obviously there's been a lot of other concerning behavior, right? When your child attempts to kiss your genitals, everyone that I've told that to tells me that it's a learned behavior, right? And I agree with that. That was my reaction too. It seemed pretty fucking strange. Except everyone in the court seems it's normal. It seems like it's normal and it's okay. And DCF is having a hard time, releasing records that I requested. So, for DCF and the police department to get involved and have one meeting, with the parents and the child and the guy who gets there. Uh, it's not it's not really thorough. And then when the detective doesn't, get back to you, when you follow up, um, but everyone wants to make me out to be the problem every step of the way. You know, why do you have to lie about me on paper? You got the psychologist saying that I'm paranoid. You know, am I paranoid or am I just aware and noticing shit? And again, accusations without facts. You didn't. What am I paranoid about specifically in detail? Can you articulate that? The judge talks about conspiracies and orders. Can you articulate that? It's a fucking joke. It all needs to be shut down, corrected, and held accountable. Truth, transparency, and accountability. And I've been saying that since before my son was born. It's a no-brainer. I mean, let's just try to act like adults here, and all we have to do is follow the law to the letter of the law, and the judges need to stop acting unconstitutionally, right? Do we have a constitution or not? Maybe we should talk about that. I'm sure the family courts don't want to hear about it, but we either have rules or we don't. And when you don't even follow your own rules, right? Like the defense doesn't even have to submit financial reports, but I have to. Like, what the fuck?